I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to I Mix What I Like again. I'm Jared Ball. Happy to be your host here at Black Power Media once again, and in desperate need of a break and of some help. So that's the point of this particular live, and those who will see and hear this later on, please, first of all, thank you, and please do offer up your thoughts. I would greatly appreciate it. As again, the point of this live is to go through a rough draft of the current state of my rough and in need of much work outline regarding what I'm trying to further coin or build upon, if I haven't coined it, this idea of cryptoganda, what it means, and the particular role it's playing vis-a-vis well, politics in general, but and political and economic analysis in general, but specifically that as it pertains to Black people, starting here in the United States, but more broadly speaking as well, because I think that I don't think it's going to happen for the second edition of the myth and propaganda of Black buying power, but I do think and I've been invited to this discussion on a number of occasions already, but I do think what I'd really like to do is collaborate with scholars, activists, journalists in different areas of the diaspora with expertise in those particular regions to make the comparative analyses between the buying power mythology as it works here and there. I think there are some similarities. Obviously, there are some important nuanced differences. But anyway. So, but specifically here, there are two things happening. I'm trying to do an essay for the Organization of Propaganda Studies about Cryptoganda, and then build upon that over the next few months for a chapter in that second edition of the Buying Power book. So, and I do want to not only produce content for our channel, but I want to try to make corrections on previous mistakes that I've made in my work on not reaching out and inviting comment and help from comrades, colleagues, and peers. So this is part of the process of that as well. So please do consider it for that as well. And I hope you all had a good time on this morning's remix morning show. And if you missed it, please go back and see it, including the important discussion that Kalanji hosted with some of the family members of fallen comrades, victims of the white terrorism in Buffalo. So just some StreamYard, stuff there, I appreciate that, Sugar Booger, and get those weeds. That's important work. That's important work. Greetings again, James. Peace. Anthony, Comrade, Kwame. Thank you for coming back through. Marley Gordon, peace to you as well. And so let me go ahead and get started. Yeah, I'm sure. Yes, indeed, Big Teal. Yes, the remix was great this morning. All right. So this is, I'm not even going to show you. So where I am, I don't even want to pull it up. It's in such an embarrassing state, but so the essay for OPS is going to be short. Neither of them are going to be very long, the chapter included, but but what I'm intending to do is in sort of 3 steps, maybe 4 steps, go through a definition of what I think is the situation and how the related pieces, that is Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, NFTs, are defined, blockchain, how that's all mining and how all that's defined. I want to talk about a little bit of what I'm describing in a second section, a little bit of what I'm describing in, so after the definitions, that is, in an intro, what are the uh what is what is cryptoganda itself specifically? What do I mean by that? How I see it playing out. Then a third section on realities. That is, what is the reality of the situation, as I'm arguing it is, of course. And with maybe a subsection or another section on just promoters and promotion. Um, uh, and then conclude. Um, so as part of the initial definition, I also mean to set out and outline the approach I'm taking to this issue, and as the case with all of them, with everything, is a broader, sort of a macro colonial or internal colonial analysis, neo-colonial, domestic colonial, semi-colonial, but a colonialism, an analysis based in colonialism that simply is that there is a power struggle. There is a competition over land, resources, labor, public opinion, consciousness, ideology, that is impacted, of course, by the big white supremacy, capitalism, patriarchy, et cetera, and so forth. But that is sort of the context. So, and I think it's always important to recognize that context, because without that context, a lot of what I certainly would argue and a lot of what I think needs to be argued gets lost. Um, and that one of the points I kind of want to make is that from my approach as a non-economist, and not even necessarily similar to what I've argued about the myth of black buying power, I'm not looking at this as an economist. I'm primarily looking at this uh, as what I am professionally, an overlapping media and Africana studies scholar. Beyond that, and admittedly in this order, I'm looking at it as, in this instance, I'm looking at it uh, secondarily, I guess, as an activist and someone who wants revolutionary change or a revolution. But primarily, as it for analysis, I'm just looking at this as an Africana and media studies scholar. That is, what is the messaging around cryptocurrency, and how is that messaging impacting Black or African people primarily? That's my concern. Ultimately, I'm arguing, as part of the definition, or my approach to all of this, that the goal primarily of cryptoganda, not of cryptocurrency, blockchain, et cetera, and so forth, but of cryptoganda, is to rebrand capitalism, broadly speaking, and Black capitalism, uh, in addition. That after all is said and done, this is a broad attempt to give new life in a new way to capitalist logic, and in particular to Black capitalist logic, which is the goal of which is specifically, almost, maybe I'll even try to define it this way, is to be defined as, that is, Black capitalism should be defined as, not as an attempt to have Black people practice capitalism, but Black capitalism as a concept really should be defined as something akin to an attempt to rebrand, or an attempt to redefine Black power or Black politics or Black struggle or liberation or freedom as something that can occur through the practice of capitalism. That there is no need for a revolution, there is no need for political power, there is no need for that level of societal political change. It is only it is simply that cryptoganda is saying, or Black capitalism rather, is saying, Black people, you don't need political struggle. You don't need revolutionary change. You don't need political power. You just need to get your money right. So in that sense, it's very much the way I've approached the buying power concept and how it will eventually fit in to that second edition. By the way, if you do have comments or questions, please do put them in the chat, and I will try to go back and go through and find them. You can certainly make it easy by super chatting them, but definitely put your questions or comments in there, because either now or at some later date I will come back through and get them and try to respond to them today, but also try to respond to them later or build from them in the work itself. All right, so from there, and I have sources in my outline, so I don't know that in some cases I've already gone through them, and I've already included in the show notes for this the full Cryptoganda playlist that I've been developing. But I'm going to, I want to refer to a couple of pieces that talk about, for instance, a short history of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency that I know I went through a couple of months ago. That is itself several years old. That just goes through some of the history, the technology that predates blockchain and cryptocurrency, and something I know I'm going to come back to in either in the chapter or in this essay or both, the work that I've been recently introduced to from Professor Nicholas Weaver at UC Berkeley, I think, who may even be a guest with us at some point. Shout out to Josh and Aaliyah, I think, who are working on that and who have been sending me, including that work there, some important stuff. But Nicholas Weaver also, by the way, his argument, which is in short that all cryptocurrency should quote die in a fire. His argument, again, not as a revolutionary anti-capitalist, but as someone who is very familiar with the stock market and with computing technology, his argument is that all of the technology, the blockchain and all that, protocol, and even the protocol that is in fact cryptocurrency, predates all of this and has only been given new life for very fraudulent, speculative investment reasons, is one short summary of his argument. So I'll definitely be referring back to his work in this as well. But initially, what all I'm looking to do in particularly this essay for OPS, but also in the chapter, really, I'm not looking to go into be heavy into arguing what is or is not crypto and all of that. I'm going to give some very basic, popular definitions that are working definitions of what all of these technologies are. Not to belabor the point, because that's not by any means my expertise. But I just want to lay out what the basics are, because as I'm going to come to shortly, they do play out politically in my analysis. So that is, what is blockchain? What is cryptocurrency? What is mining? What are NFTs or non-fungible tokens? And then I'll give a brief definition at the end of this initial section on, what is Cryptoganda, and then I'll move into the second section, which will be more fully about Cryptoganda. Now, my sources for these early definitions are coming from those who have been critical of it, but primarily I'll be leaning on their arguments for just in terms of that introductory section, for just what are these things, so that we're all more or less clear what we're talking about, which isn't always the case. By the way, when Reggie Middleton and I debated and he tried to catch me on that point, that when he was trying to say, well, what is cryptocurrency? And I kept saying, well, it's currency. It's popularly defined as currency. He kept saying, see, you don't know what you're talking about, because really it's a protocol. And technically he's correct. And I think during that debate I tried to make this point. um I don't know, I can't remember how far we got on it, but technically he is correct. But that's one of the issues I'm going to try to briefly address in this introduction, that it is a protocol in the sense that what is called cryptocurrency, using blockchain technology, again, is just, which is itself much older, and just allows encrypted direct exchanges of data. uh Cryptocurrency is a protocol that builds off of the blockchain to facilitate that exchange of data, but has been grafted onto this concept of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other coins, and popularly defined as a currency for its promotional purposes. So that's the point I'm getting at. In other words, I'm not an expert on what the protocol and technologies and algorithms and all those things are. What I am, with at least an increased level of expertise vis-a-vis that, clear about, or becoming clear on, is, or focused on, and wanting to talk about, is the popular discussion and promotion of all of this. In other words, I don't think anyone, and I'll look in the chat in a few to see if anybody checks me on this. I don't think anyone, there's no popular discussion of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency as a protocol. It's it is discussed almost exclusively, and this is where I'll be moving into the section on Cryptoganda. It is almost exclusively talked about as a currency, as and or broadly, even maybe more broadly speaking, as a wealth producing asset, an investment opportunity, a speculative asset investment opportunity. So Reggie was trying to catch me on the correctness of a technicality, but by willfully, and I think in a very cryptogandist way, working to obfuscate the fact that the reality is it is promoted as a currency, and that is what is driving all of the market capitalization, the discussion, the hope, the dreams, the fantasy, the cons, the ponzi's, the rug pulls. All of that is facilitated by a promotion, not of a protocol, but of a currency or an investment opportunity. So when I'm talking about cryptoganda, obviously I'm collapsing cryptocurrency and propaganda. I don't know if I've coined this, pun intended, but that is certainly my intent, to do that, or to build on it, or to popularize it. So if there's someone who's beat me to that, please help me find that person and properly credit them. Um, but for my purposes, the definition, and I'll you know more clarify this when I write it out, but is that cryptoganda, again, is specifically the deployment of propagated or propagandized messaging around cryptocurrency, with the specific purpose of rebranding capitalism, broadly speaking, and Black capitalism, secondarily. And again, Black capitalism being specifically understood not as Black people trying to participate in capitalism, but Black people being propagandized out of political struggle. So then I've written here, sort of three uh, uh, areas in which cryptoganda seeks to dominate and find itself and expand. The myth around decentralization, the myth around revolutionary wealth creation, and the myth around encryption. That again, that all of this is, that blockchain and crypto and all of this is collectively defined in the zeitgeist and in popular culture as decentralized, as a freedom break from the banks and from Wall Street and the 1%. Then specifically when we're talking to Black and brown people, it said that this is going to be, and again, I'm thinking of that Spike Lee commercial. It's that we've played before, where he's literally saying old money was about slavery and new money is about freedom. So we're told that it's going to be you're getting in on the internet of money. You're getting in at the early stages of the internet of money, and therefore should you can it's generation and collective community improvement, world changing. And of course that this is driven by encryption, um, and protection and privacy and safety and the freedom of uh, freedom from, again, banks and corporations and the spying eye of the government and all kinds of whatever and what have you. And as a response, and I'm not, this is where I'm not entirely sure how this is going to work, but as a response to these three sections, I don't know if I'm just going to lay them out and then separately in a reality section go back. That's probably what I'll just do. I'll lay out in Cryptoganda my definitions, what these three general areas of myth making occur, and then uh, start to look at to the in a separate section, look at the reality of what's happening in those areas. So when it comes to decentralization, there's a number of articles that I've already talked about on the show previously, but there's even more coming out on this. But and even some of the academic work that I've looked at with the London School of Economics piece and some others, that there is no decentralizing in the way that it's popularly promoted, because as I've been arguing, the replacement of the banks and the government are the platform exchanges, the exchanges that are dominating, Coinbase, Bitfinex, etc. That are they're the centralized hubs, where all of this these exchanges are going through, where billions are being created for really just a handful of people. Uh, so in sort of my play on this is also to point out that while it is not only not decentralizing the exchange of money, but it is re-centralizing not only the accumulation of wealth, but the authorities over that process. So whether it's the exchanges, whether it's the mining that is involved in all of this, and I'm learning more about how the concentration of mining operations creates, they become the authority, because and I'll probably deal with this a little bit more in the introductory section, but the issue is that the mining is what verifies the blockchain ledger, and those who dominate that mining are the only ones with the authority actually have the authority to rewrite the ledger. And as Weaver points out, not only do they have the authority to rewrite the ledger and then to determine what is the permanent ledger, and then become the authorities of sort of the history of blockchain, so to speak, of the contents of the blockchain, but they also it's also made to be non-reversible or irreversible. So in a world where we want, and then he talks about the speed of this too, where Bitcoin is very slow and all this other stuff. But in a world where I would want consumer protection and an ability to be in touch with publicly the seller of a good or a service, the blockchain makes that impossible. And so if you get ripped off, there's no reverse sending of the funds. There's no reversibility involved. Um, and again, as I've argued before, why would we want that? Obviously, the revolutionary wealth creation part is a little bit easy in the sense that more work is coming out, some of which I've also already talked about on the show, that shows the accumulation of wealth in these Bitcoin wallets, the accumulation of wealth overall of the billionaires involved. Um, but more broadly speaking, the wealth redistribution or distribution in the world has not changed. In other words, the world is just as unequal in its wealth redistribution and income generation as it's ever been. And then the encryption, some of these stories are a little bit funny, some of them are scary, some of them are you're almost forced to be in a position where you're cheering for the other set of bad guys, in the sense that with all of these stories coming out, whether it's in response to the um, uh, war between Russia and Ukraine, and Russia being booted off. Not only they haven't only been booted off the what's that money exchange system that the world uses? Somebody will know in the chat. But they've been booted off of crypto exchanges. Uh, there's been uh, let's see. I know I have one of the stories here. Um, uh, Now I've moved it all around. I can't find stuff, but which is, let me see here, because I know that anyway. There was right on March 8th. It was reported that Coinbase basically gave up the Russians. They Coinbase, the dominant, I think they're the second largest exchange in the world, certainly the number one in North America. They blocked Russian wallets and I don't have the details right here, but they, in other words, they, as I wrote in my notes here, they bent to political power. So the dominant narrative was the Russians are bad. So Coinbase acted right on along with them, with that narrative. We've also had seen the stories where sort of in again, where you're almost forced to root for the other set of bad guys, where international sex rings are being exposed. Uh, because as I have, and if we've gone over on the show here, intelligence agencies, state powers are able to get into the blockchain. They have their ways to get in and find out who's doing what, and catch people apparently when they want to, or when they feel they need to. They can put political power on these exchanges. They can. The CIA says it's remember we went through that one story where the CIA said it loved, again, I know the CIA can't be trusted, but I thought it was, anyway, it was a very well written report from them, where they're saying they're happy to have people engaged in illegal activity using blockchain technology, because they have no problem getting in, and then because everything is permanently there, there you go. So anyway, so the point being that the third part of that Cryptoganda mythology, in terms of how it's meant to play out, not in terms of how I'm defining it, but in terms of how it methodologically plays out, is by promising this encryption, is not good for anybody except for as Weaver certainly and others keep arguing, those who are engaged in quote unquote illegal activity. I know we all have our thoughts about what is deemed illegal and how that might be beneficial to people in certain forms of political or unsanctioned struggle. But if the goal is political power or wealth creation, then the fact of being able to do something in secrecy is not something that for a collective is going to be of any value to a certain individual or small group effort, perhaps. But But then, as I'm saying, and it's being more and more reported, if they want to, they can catch you, and it's a wrap. So anyway, so that third, it's not as encrypted. Um, and then I do have some of the more popular examples about how it's being promoted. Including the debates that I've had with Middleton, with the gentleman of crypto, the the indirect debate that I had with the Bitcoin socialist and Richard Wolff, where I identified their argument for how Bitcoin or blockchain can be used to benefit socialist and radical struggles in the left, but was missing the point about how Cryptoganda works specifically to deny Black attempts at political power, primarily because in those socialist discussions they uh, assumed a pre-existing level of political organization among radicals, among the left, among socialists, where in organized, small, specific endeavors, perhaps blockchain can be, and anonymity and the encryption can be of some value. But if we're talking about large collective national struggles, uh, and specifically Black liberation, it's not. A solution. I have the One United Bank Crypto League as an example of this promotional effort towards Black America. I have, of course, the Bitcoin and Black America book and that debate that I talked about. I have as examples that I'll list. Um, and this is where I don't know if this is going to need to dovetail with the section I had on promotion, or maybe I just need to move that into this area. But in terms of the way Cryptoganda plays out, I probably have to put it there. Yeah, I do probably have to move it there. But I have even included in this the ongoing Instagram debate I have with Wise Intelligent, who I can't get to for some reason come on the show. But whenever not whenever, but often when I post something on Instagram related to crypto, I get a response from him, including recently, and I'm actually going to share that because I think this is an example of what I'm talking about. Um, in terms of, not that I'm saying Wise Intelligent is one of these paid for, blind, foolish and scandalous promoters of crypto. I'm not putting him in that category at all. But what I'm meaning to say is that in the broader array of Cryptoganda, there are those who are paid spokespeople with the intention, blah, 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 blah. But there are others who promote it, again, assuming the claimed mythologies, or one aspect, or an amended aspect of the mythological claims, uh, and uh, uh, and grafted onto their own particular individual hopes, endeavors, political projects, etc. So they'll grab onto the promoted uh, rebranding of Black capitalism. If we invest this way, if we pool money this way, if we invest, work, we can engage this way. If we get our satoshis, although I think Hill Harper is a little more politically scandalous than in his intent. Certainly, he's not to where the politically Wise Intelligent is. But in other words, and that there's this that anyway. What I mean by that is there are those who are promoting it just, again, as paid spokespeople, and then there are those who are just assuming that some of the mythological points about it, in terms of wealth creation, and the rebranding of Black capitalism, and ended up promoting it. But anyway, so from one of Nick Weaver's presentations that I watched, he made reference to this slide here, that I posted on Instagram, that I went and found, and it comes from NIST, And if anybody pays attention to 9/11 conspiracies and the argument, particularly around the 9/11 architects and engineers for 9/11 truth, NIST doesn't come off very well. What is it? The National Institute for Science and Technology, because their version of, you know, is not a good one per se. But here, what Nick Weaver's point is that if you look at this, what he's basically saying here, and his point in bringing this up was that blockchain technology has long existed, but only has very particular uses, and it's not something that is intended or meant to replace the banking system or currency systems or currency exchange systems. It's not meant for that. So this little joke is just basically saying, do you need shared content? Do you need a shared content data store? If you don't need that, then you don't need blockchain, because blockchain provides historically consistent. Blockchains provide a historically consistent data store. If you don't need that, you don't need blockchain. Consider using email or spreadsheets. Do you need more than one entity to contribute to data? No. Consider just using any regular database or auditing use cases. Because, in other words, with a blockchain, your data comes from a single entity. Blockchains are typically used when data comes from multiple entities. So, in other words, it's just meant to show you that blockchains aren't really new. They're definitely not new, and they're not necessary. So, my man Wise Intelligent writes, initially, he says, we don't need an internet either, but it is here. Its data mobility use case is integrated into every aspect of our lives, and we're all using it. That being the case, digital property rights and distributed ledgers of account make sense for the internet. And my response initially was, indeed, that lecture from which I got this details how all of this is leading to more exploitation and concentration of wealth. So we need political power. In other words, Wise Intelligent is saying that distributed ledgers of account make sense for the internet. First of all, I disagree with that, because as the diagram says, the internet already does what we need it to do. We already, in other words, the internet already provides sufficient. Definitely needs improvement, but at the moment, well, I don't know, adequate levels of encryption and protection. It allows for us to more or less safely exchange and trade and buy and do things in privacy. We don't, not everything I purchase with, even with a credit card, is known to to whomever. And more importantly, if there's an error with what I spend on a credit card, I can get that money back. And in fact, as Nick Weaver points out, like, I've never had money stolen from a credit card purchase, because I can always get it back. If it gets hacked or stolen or whatever, you can get it back. It's protected. Unlike that is not the case with. So why would I want a one-way distributed ledger of account? I don't know, distributed ledgers of account. I don't even. And why would I want my bank account and the content and the contents thereof on a public ledger that, even with pseudonymity, can be hacked and read and viewed by anyone? Or you don't even need to go through all that hacking. People expose who owns wallets all the time, just by paying attention to the public ledger and the times of the transactions. So then Wise writes back, I understand and agree it's doing all you stated. I'm in it and see it firsthand. One reason it's leading to more exploitation and concentration of wealth is because those on the side of the people do not establish alternative people-focused institutions to those established by the capitalists. This gives the people little choice in their own exploitation. It seems they'd rather force Kruger to serve their communities and to hire their people, as opposed to establishing a chain of groceries that serve them. You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. Besides, politics work like the drug game in many ways. The cartel that pays the chief runs the streets. Okay, I don't disagree. So my only response to that was chats and IG are not good places for this discussion. My point is we should have them on this show. Because what I would say here again is that this is sort of my point. Cryptoganda is rebranding of old black capitalist mythology. So when he's arguing, don't make Kruger try to hire your people, build your own chain of stores. He's just advocating the old myth of black capitalist entrepreneurialism as a solution to economic exploitation of a community. And that's what I'm saying is again not that's not a solution. So doing it under the guise of blockchain and cryptocurrency is of no value here. Again, new technology does not change social relationships. It enhances them. So but anyway, but that's sort of my point. But the promotion of the cryptoganda works by again being the new brand, the new coding, the updated version of the old argument. Of course, there are other promoters we've talked about on this platform and on this show that I would want to go back and revisit. Spike Lee, Tory Lanez, and the NFT Nas and his NFT album. Again, this is not to say that these are enemies and bad people. It is to say that their argument around the sale of their album or the creation of their albums as NFTs reaffirms the mythology that NFTs, which again, as extensions of blockchain technology, just allow for the individual ownership of a URL ultimately, and allow for people to create wealth based on what other wealthy people are willing to spend on whatever you've said is art and whatever they agree is art. That's no different than the art world. It's no different than the existing music industry. It just moves it to another place, and it does not redistribute wealth. It does not create wealth. It does not even give autonomy over the art that is claimed and all that. And as I showed in the video with Tory Lanez about his NFT, it's really a front for a white gateway company to and to another white owned Ethereum cryptocurrency. Roland Martin's on the list. Ja Rule is on the list. I'm even the UFC Ultimate Fighting Championship is promoted in an absurd way. Cryptocurrency within the last year. I don't know if I wrote this down because I came up with this, but there's or someone else, so I need to check into that. The Rapitalist class. Did someone else come up with Rapitalist? Of course, we have the Matt Damon commercial, and I have some articles here from Adweek about ad revenue going into all of this. I've talked more recently about the comparison of advertising today, crypto, to the historical advertising for the .coms, and we saw how all that went. I mentioned her book the other day, and I'm reading it. I've been reading it a lot lately, and it's interrupted my reading of the Stephanie Kelton book on MMT, which I want to get back to and talk about. But the book Buy Black by Dr. Aria Halliday, and I've there are definite points of disagreement, but her book is fascinating. And I've written, and then I have reached out. Hopefully she'll come on the show. But my point in all of that is that I'll probably have to do this for the book chapter, if at all, and not the essay. But I would like to do something. There's something in what she is saying about the history of Black people and Black women in particular engaging the marketing world and the idea, as she keeps calling it, Oh, what does she call it? What is she has her phrase, and I'm wondering, and I even made a note to ask if this is if this is her version of the buying power mythology, because she says it is. Oh yeah, this book is fascinating. Even where I think we disagree, just the history of this is fascinating to me. And the book is very well written, very well sourced, covers a lot of literature that I'm not familiar with in cultural studies. Black symbolic power. So she suggests that even when there is capitalist white supremacist exploitation through marketing, advertising, etc., there is a black symbolic power that is taken advantage of and made good use of by these black women. So there's something of about that I think is going on with Cryptoganda as well, where because as I made a note in Halliday's to Halliday's book that that she's talking about black women and black symbolic power, but I don't think but I'm wondering, I would want to ask her about this, and obviously I'll keep reading. I don't think she deals with this point specifically, but I made a note here in my notes that isn't this just black girl magic, the conscious consumer of Nielsen, um, and the Black Lives Matter advertising using African queens on a Visa debit card? Isn't that so? I anyway, but my point really is that I think there's something going on with this idea of black symbolic power in the cryptoganda space, where again this perception of power, this perception symbolically of being powerful and being presented as powerful is playing a role in all of this. And I think as it does nothing positive and nothing good, certainly for the material condition, but nothing for the political analysis, even immaterially, of black people to see that uh, symbolic power, so to speak. So I'm thinking that she's defining power in her phrase symbolic power as power is defined popularly in the phrase buying power, and I think that they're both mythological, but um I don't know. I there's something fascinating about Halliday's argument. Anyway, even as I think we disagree, that I want to continue to learn more about, and then maybe work with in this piece to some extent. Um, um, Man, there's so many. I've got so many notes and articles here about. So one thing that one thing that I definitely wanted, because this is new. So one thing I wanted to get to in today, and before I wrap up, is and I'm going to come to the chat in a minute to check. So please, if you have questions or comments, put them there or repost them if you can, and I'll just go back in a minute. But so yeah, so anyway, what I'm saying is I think I'm going to put that section about the promotion that I was just talking about, the with Wise and Hill Harper, and go back over a little bit of our previous commentary about that, and Roland Martin and his promotion of at least the broader mythology, um economic entrepreneurial mythology. I'm going to put that back under. I think that's just going to have to go in the cryptoganda section. Then I'll come to the reality section, or maybe they just have to be blended. See, that's where I always struggle. Because what I was thinking I would do have have the section explaining and focused on what the cryptoganda is saying and the promoters of the cryptoganda, and I think I'm going to do it that way. Then the realities have a section on what is the reality, and here's where I would talk about and show the work and that supports this, but that uh, all of this is really ideologically libertarian, right wing, and reactionary. Make reference to the whole Max Kaiser piece and Peter Thiel, uh, um, their overlap, where Max Kaiser is supposed to be this alternative, progressive, or whatever economist, uh, but he's right there in league with Peter Thiel, the very right wing conservative, Nazi-esque Bitcoin and crypto promoter, which we've been covering here, specifically with Barrett Brown. Um, the realities around consolidation, there's really just a 1% that's dominating the crypto space, whether it's mining, whether it's the currencies themselves, certainly the exchanges. Um, Bitcoin is largely controlled by a small group of investors and miners. A study finds that we've talked about here, that'll be cited. The new piece in Jacobin not only gives help with some of the definitions in the early part of what will be this essay and chapter, but I can use in this as well to talk about the realities of what is happening with centralization and accumulation of wealth. Diedrich Muhammad's piece, just a brief overview of how this is not anything different than speculative investment. Boyce Watkins and Charles Wu. I went back and watched some of that. I don't know if that'll fit into this, but just in terms of the role of marketing and promotion, the use of Black spokespeople to front non-Black economic endeavors. Sales and emotion. Look at that again. The way that, again, crypto was formed and used in the formation of a pack against Nina Turner. Again, I'm not suggesting Nina Turner is a radical, but for many who think that she was the best progressive option, the way crypto came in and worked against her, and yet it's again said to be an alternative. That crypto is going to create a revolution, and even in Bitcoin for Black America, Bitcoin Zay argues that Bitcoin should be used to basically buy politicians, and that's exactly what happened. But again, against the interests of progressive or more progressive options. The consolidation, the technological consolidation. I've got stuff here on that. Just one quote here: JPM Coin runs on the Quorum blockchain, a network the bank developed. That's JP Morgan Coin will run on the Quorum blockchain, a network the bank developed as a private version of the Ethereum network, whose native cryptocurrency is Ether. According to a press release issued last fall, JP Morgan Chase sold Quorum to Consensus on August 25th, 2020. It just so happens that the co-founder of Ethereum network, Joe Lubin, is also the founder of Consensus. The same press release indicates that JP Morgan Chase made a strategic investment in Consensus, adding, quote, since the launch of Quorum in 2016, Consensus and JP Morgan have collaborated to make Ethereum the platform of choice for enterprises building secure, customizable business networks at scale, end quote. So again, the same consolidation. We're right back to JP Morgan Chase. So Ethereum is connected to JP Morgan Chase, and all these NFTs that are being bought and sold, including Nas and Tory Lanez, all of that goes right back to this. Of course, CoffeeZilla has some new stuff. I hope you've all been paying attention, if you haven't, to his work on Safe Moon. That'll figure here, the latest Ponzi scheme or rug pull. In fact, he describes all of this as Ponzi-nomics. And again, this is a pro capitalist investor guy who's just seeing all of the cons that are occurring in this space. Right, here's the story I have about inside Bitcoin, the Bitcoin bust that took down the web's biggest child abuse site. BlackRock joins Fidelity and Vanguard as a Bitcoin mining investor. So two of the three largest investment groups in the world are now mining. BlackRock CEO sees opportunities in crypto, but skeptical about its value. Again, the realities of the situation, that despite the claims, global billionaire wealth surges $4 trillion over the pandemic. This leads me to just a more recent story, and then I'll come to a close here. But anyway, there's just just many more sources and stories that I have about the promotion of all of this, the advertising of all of this, the fraud in all of this, the consolidation in all of this, the accumulation of wealth in all of this. Again, since we had, since we debated, the gentleman of crypto promoting, we talked about this recently, Miami coin, and then it collapses, even as it's continuing to be upheld as a project because it boosts the stock value of a handful of billionaire investors. More on celebrity advertising. Anyway, so let me just show you this one recent story from the good folks at Wall Street on Parade. And then I'll jump in the chat real quick. Just a couple of days ago, a week ago, Senator tells Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, that crypto market is now larger than the subprime market that triggered the global financial crisis. So this will definitely figure into both the essay or an update of this, at least, will figure into the essay and the book chapter. As a result of the Dodd-Frank financial reform legislation of 2010, the U.S. Treasury Secretary chairs a key group of banking and Wall Street regulators called the Financial Stability Oversight Council, pronounced FSOC for short. The idea behind FSOC, the Financial Stability Oversight Council, was that Wall Street's insane binges into things like toxic subprime debt and credit default swaps would never again be allowed to sneak up on snoozing government watchdogs, take down the U.S. economy, and put the Wall Street mega banks on a long-term feeding tube from the Fed, as occurred from 2008 to 2010. So FSOC is supposed to protect us. But just skipping ahead a little bit, last week, Fabio Panetta, one of the European Central Bank's 6 executive board members, noted that the cryptocurrency market is now larger than the subprime mortgage market that triggered the global financial crisis. Nobody knows better than us in the state of Nevada. And he says this $1.3 trillion crypto market shows strikingly similar dynamics. There are about 10,000 crypto assets now. So my question, Madam Secretary, is one financial risk posed by the cryptocurrency is the concentration of ownership. Do you see any financial risk because professional investors and high net worth individuals hold almost 2/3 of the Bitcoin supply? So again, I know Black people are being told specifically to buy up all this Satoshi and pieces of Bitcoin, but 2/3 of it is already held by high net worth individuals, professional investors. And that the market at 1.3 trillion is larger than it was, and it lost about 0.4 because it was 1.7 trillion last year, but is larger than the subprime market that crashed the economy. But of course they were all bailed out, so I don't think they're the elite that were at least were bailed out. So Yellen said there could be financial stability risks if those professional investors were leveraged to the point that, quote, a decline in the value of assets could trigger financial distress, which spills over to others. Yellen said that President Biden has asked the U.S. Treasury and FSOC to look at the risks presented by crypto, and they will be issuing a comprehensive report on this shortly. So, as I mentioned earlier, one of the issues that cryptogandists deny is that is the potential for something like this to occur. Their argument is that people like the elite, like Hillary Clinton and others, and then by proxy, people like me, are defending the dollar and are worried about Bitcoin supplanting the dollar, which is their goal, of course, which of course would be terrible for us if it ever happened. Not that the dollar is good, but this is not better, it's worse. And that's why that elite financial powers and institutions are attacking the concept of cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, because they were worried about the dollar's weakening in value in relationship to Bitcoin. But that's nonsense, because again, you can't buy anything with Bitcoin, and the value of Bitcoin is based on its ability for people to sell it and transfer it into exchange it into dollars. Even the good folks, the gentlemen of crypto, don't sell their classes and their whatever they're selling in crypto. You can't buy what they sell in crypto. They want you. Their whole thing is about crypto. But if you look and you try to buy, sign up for one of their classes, that you can't use crypto, because the only value in crypto is its ability to be transferred back into dollars. So as Nick Weaver points out, there's a lot of time and effort and wasted money in terms of exchange fees. If to buy Bitcoin you have to use dollars, and then if you want to have that Bitcoin become of any usable value to you, you have to sell it, because some greater fool has come in and made it made yours more valuable. You have to sell it to somebody willing to pay more to get out in a currency, most likely dollars, that you can use in the actual world. What my point though is that, and what I was trying to say but was not able to say with this level of clarity or whatever, is what Yellen is saying here. And again, I'm not saying Yellen is a good person, I'm not on her team, but what they fear is that people who have invested in Bitcoin will at some point lose all of their money that would have been able to be invested elsewhere in the stock market in dollars, um, uh, or some other currency, actual usable currency, and that currency would then be lost to the system. It's not that they're saying the currency would be devalued, at least how I'm reading it. They're saying, Yellen and others like that are saying, uh, in people trying to recover losses in crypto will take money out of other areas of the stock market, which is what led to the last collapse. And elite owners of whatever who call in the debt will want the debt paid. So anyway, that's what they're worried about. Not that crypto is going to replace the dollar, but that people will lose their money, lose their invested dollars in crypto, and want to replace those losses with money that is invested elsewhere. Yellen also said that the president's working group has already issued a report on stablecoins, which indicated that there could be a risk of a run on stablecoins, which could threaten financial stability. That run is clearly already happening. This morning, CNBC reported this: a UST, a so-called stable coin that is meant to maintain a one-to-one peg with the US dollar, plunged as low as 31 cents Wednesday. It was last trading at less than 50 cents, according to CoinGecko data. As we reported yesterday, as of Monday's closing price of $30,930, Bitcoin futures have plunged 55% from their high of $69,355 last November. And that $1.4 trillion market cap for crypto that European central banker Fabio Panetta spoke about last week was a $2.9 trillion market cap last November, and a $2.2 million market cap as recently as April 2nd. It's melting as fast as a snow cone in July. So that's what they're worried about. All of that money that's being used and generated through trading coins and moving coins and buying coins, all of those trillions are going elsewhere as the value of these coins, as the trust in these coins, as the investors' support for these coins dwindles, the value drops. And if you are, again, either looking to replace losses or not lose more, you have to get out faster. That's creating the run. That's creating the devaluation. That's creating an exposure, from my point of view, of the mythology. This article also talks about how the derivatives issue that led to the collapse last time hasn't gone away either. and then they conclude by saying what was not questioned at all by senators on the banking committee that oversees the Wall Street mega banks was the $234 trillion in notional face amount derivatives sitting on the books of these mega banks that are being called out every quarter in the Office of the Comptroller of the Currencies report on bank trading and derivative activities. Table 14 of this report, see page 19, indicates that just 5 bank holding companies are responsible for $200.18 trillion of that exposure, or 86% of the total. Those mega bank holding companies are JP Morgan Chase, Citibank, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, and Bank of America. Each of these banks required bailouts during and after the financial crisis of 2008, and several would have completely collapsed without that assistance. Each of these Wall Street banks also own a deposit-taking bank that holds massive sums of federally insured deposits. If one wants to talk about concentrated risk, why not talk about $200 trillion of risk in derivatives in addition to the $1.4 trillion risk in crypto? Wow. Yeah, stable coin, fable coin. So then, as I will conclude, just repeating, there is the overall outline. There is a certain definition of all of these items. There's my definition of that is blockchain, cryptocurrency, etc., mining. There is a definition of cryptoganda, that is a rebranding of Black capitalism, which is itself a rebranding of the idea that Black entrepreneurialism can supplant Black political power. There is the reality of the situation. There are those promoting all of that cryptoganda and the ways it's promoted. Then there are the realities of the situation, some of which I've just covered very quickly. And then, of course, specifically, the goal of all of this is to make sure Black capitalism is seen as viable and a solution for Black people. So I don't know. I know there's a lot there, and I don't know how well organized that was conveyed, or if at all. But that's what I'm seeking help on and thoughts about, and critique of, and whatever. So whether you have some now and you want to drop them in the chat, or you see this later and want to drop it in the chat, or hit me up an email, please do. And let's see, the price of crypto, once it was worthwhile, the people who were spending billions fictionally raised the worth, creating a trend that sell it to peons, leave them. Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah, this does. I mean, I didn't share it, I didn't show it, but that was kind of going through what is a bibliography for me, if that was what I understood to be your question. Yeah, I'm in the brainstorming phase. Well, I don't know, maybe a little more. I think I'm a little beyond brainstorming, but definitely in trying to work out and organize the argument. Because especially when I don't have a lot of space, it's only a few thousand words, even for the chapter. It's not going to be long. I always struggle organizing my thoughts, but I often struggle when I have the less amount of space. A CNBC article about how crypto lobbyists have put about 30 million into lobbying. Please send that to me, or drop it in the chat. I don't know if I have that one. Yeah, I mean, and if you remember during our debate, Bitcoin Zay said he went all up and down, I believe, the East Coast of the country, trying, or at least this region of Maryland, Virginia, trying to get get those installed. And as I was just looking at, and thanks to Ricky and a couple other people that sent me these pieces about El Salvador, people there, the working class people there, they don't even use it. They can't use it because, again, you have to have money to get the Bitcoin. And if you don't already have money, how is the existence of a Bitcoin? Anyway, so they're not using the ATMs and stuff. So definitely, again, thanks to Lucy. Share often, click like, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Please definitely do that. Do you intend to have someone like Dr. Linwood Tauheed review a draft, or whether a level of economics, have you included the essay? I hadn't thought of that, but maybe that's a good idea. I had initially invited Dr. William Springer. Am I remembering his name right now? The economist out of Howard. I was on a panel with him once, and we talked about buying power sort of on the side, and he agreed with what I was sharing as my analysis then, but he hadn't responded and looked at it. I don't know. I was going to use Dr. Tauheed. I was probably going to reference him, and I need to make a note of that for just what he said on Jackie's show, as I did the other day. I wasn't planning on reaching out to him, but that's not a bad idea. But again, the economics of it are not really my argument in either case. I did invite economists to look at the work, for instance, Derek Hamilton, in terms of the buying power book, and that's why he's going to be writing a forward to the second edition. But I haven't. But in terms of crypto, no, I haven't, because the several of them are cited here. Actually, the economic analyses that I've read or watched, there is none. Whether they're conservative or left wing analyses, there is no economic analysis that seems to defend them outside of the cryptoganda spaces. So that's actually interesting. I'm gonna have to come back to that. That's a good. Thank you for that. Can I be one of your editors? Might be his. Hey, absolutely. I have no problem with that. Hit me up, email me, and I always need editing, so that would be great. I'd appreciate that. I haven't heard the term cryptoganda used until it was here. Even if you didn't coin it, you may be popularizing it. Okay, that's cool. I'll take that. I'll take that. Yeah, this is a stage of, this is certainly part of the, or if not a new stage and an extension of the existing stage we're in. Yeah, that's right. It's talked about as an asset. Techies might get into the nitty gritty of the protocol, but that's not that's right. Yeah. Yeah. None of the popular discussion of any of this is about the protocols and the algorithms and the tech and all of that, and that's why that Reggie Middleton thing was, as a tactic in a debate, it was probably good for him to try to do that. But it if he had followed through with it, though, I don't think he followed through with that. But it's certainly in terms of the popular discussion and the way it is discussed. It's not discussed. It's anything other than an asset and wealth building and this and that and deuce and doot to doot to woot to put to put to. Yeah, UST is that, and is that Tether? I can't remember if that's Tether or not. This isn't my understanding of what happened with Libya. It wasn't that I don't recall Gaddafi talking specifically about crypto. I recall him talking specifically about the creation of an independent currency and of getting off of the US dollar as the petrodollar. Now that would have been a threat to the dollar, to the value of the dollar. I don't recall him making an argument about crypto. That's funny. Biden won't even take his bribes in crypto. Even at the conferences, you can't buy stuff in crypto. Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. But yeah, so yeah, investors love crypto the same reason they love app developers and coders. You can make millions without having to build any physical object or build factories or warehouses. Yeah. Well, yeah. Anyway, okay, we've been here a little over an hour. I appreciate you all again coming through and supporting the channel, and raising some of these points and questions. Please definitely follow up with me if you're interested, Manny, Nile, in the editing, or you got other comments or questions about what I'm trying to do here. Any critiques? Do I have titles? I do have titles for the outline. So Cryptoganda will be in the title of the piece somewhere, and the subtitles are definitions, where I get into the colonial relationship and go through the basic definitions of cryptocurrency, mining, NFTs, and Cryptoganda. Then there's a section on Cryptoganda, in which I will put the subsection of promoters and advertising. And then I will have a section of what I've temporarily called realities, where we get into what's really happening, the ideology behind it, the consolidation, the centralization, the accumulation, the lack of privacy, the surveillance by the state, the threat to the economy as a subprime issue that we just went over, and several other pieces about why it's a fraud, why it doesn't work, the debate between Max Kaiser and Michael Hudson. Shout out to Daruba. Daruba texted me the other day and said, man, you need to read Michael Hudson's new edition of Super Imperialism. And I said, Daruba, you need to watch my show, because we already been talking about that. I already been reading it, already been had the book. It's like, okay, right. I already did this question. Right. So yeah. I think I got to everything, right? Yeah, new people seeking new markets. That's it. It was after the crash in '08. That's where they said we need a new method. How do you get people back into everything? Thank you, Sula Moon. Everybody else should do the same. Like and share and subscribe and join the channel and do all those good things. While I'm here, definitely, if you got your HBCU experience, please go to imixwhatilike.org and share it. Check out our new Discord. The link is in the show description. Definitely soda, everybody. Soda. And I think that'll do it. I appreciate you all again very much. I definitely I feel like this is helpful to me so far. And but if anything was unclear or you think needs some whatever, yeah, I was trying to, yeah, okay. I just didn't show anything. Because I'll tell you why. This is what it looks like. This is where I'm at right now. This is where I'm at. So you got the Cryptoganda, you got the definition section, and you see some of the hyperlinks, the Cryptoganda section, the links and links and links, links and links and links and links and links. Then you got the promoters, which I'm going to put under the Cryptoganda section, just all the promotional stuff. And then I'll come back to the realities of what is really going on, and then come back to the conclusion. Just repeat the outline and maybe add in one or two other little things. So it's a mess. I hope so. I appreciate that. If that's in reference to this, I hope that's it. Yeah, it's in the notes app. Yeah, I use that all the time. I don't, so that I can, if I'm on the phone or wherever I'm at, you can update it pretty easily. I don't know. Yeah. And I just got it that well organized just today. I'm working on it this morning. Hey, I appreciate it. I hope it helps. And I hope the subsequent, organization and presentation of it all helps as well. Anyway, look, I really, again, I appreciate having this platform, us being able to do this a little bit. Again, please support all the other shows and everything being done on this channel and all of its affiliate networked comrades and et cetera and stuff. And let's definitely have some fun, but let's get busy out here too. So let's leave it at that. Like Fred Hampton used to say, a version of "To you we say peace because we know you're willing to fight for it." And I'll catch you next time. I'll be on the remix tomorrow. We'll see you then, and throughout the platform and the rest of the week and all that other because everywhere else. So peace, everybody. Thanks again. I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. What I like, what I like, what I like, what I